Well, I said this was a must-win game for the Cleveland Browns all week leading up to this game. After they got drubbed by Baltimore, this game right here, Thursday Night Football, how they came to play for this game was going to show a lot about the character and the integrity of this team. And come Thursday Night Football, boy, I was nervous about what I was going to see leading up to kickoff. But once that ball got kicked off, once that ball got into the offensive hands, I was delighted to see what I saw, so let's talk about it. Real quick before I talk about Thursday Night Football, I want to make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell. Going to be a ton of Browns content coming up in the coming days, so make sure you're subscribed and notified so you don't miss a single thing. So the Browns versus the Bengals on Thursday Night Football. Very good game. I thought it was a very good game. Good offense on both sides of the ball here. And I thought Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow lived up to the hype of the game, right? Two Heisman Trophy winners, two former #1 overall picks facing off against each other. Both of those guys did not disappoint today, which was great to see. And it was a fun game to watch. And I think we learned a lot about both teams in this game. One, I think you saw exactly what you needed to see out this Cleveland Browns offense, right? Last week, I was just disappointed with how that offense came out. And it's not just how they looked, it's what they tried to do that bamboozled me to start this season, because that did not look like the Kevin Stefanski offense that I watched for 14 days in training camp that I covered on this channel. That looked like something else. That looked like Freddie Kitchens. That looked like the Todd Monken thing. And I was really concerned that if they came into Thursday Night Football playing with that offense, that would mean a lot of negative things for this season for Baker Mayfield, for Odell Beckham. It might have been 2019 all over again, but that's not what we saw today. Today, we saw what we were promised, right? The run heavy, zone run, play action heavy, the Minnesota Viking / San Francisco 49er offense. Exactly that. That's what you got today. And that worked out pretty well. I said last week, when the Browns actually did this against Baltimore, they were a pretty good offense. When they play like this, they're a pretty good offense. When they don't know what to do, because Baker's not sure what decisions to make. Odell's not sure what to do to make sure Baker can get him the ball. The chemistry just falls apart, and you end up with Baker patting the ball a lot, not knowing what to do with it. So offense, that's exactly what we needed to see from this offense. The defense of the Cleveland Browns is exactly what I expected, right? They stayed disciplined on a lot of those edge runs. I thought they would do a decent job against Joe Mixon because of that. They stayed very disciplined. The only time they really got beat on runs was when Joe Burrow, tucked it and ran it. But again, I said they should play more man. And when you play more man, Joe Burrow is going to get third downs occasionally by tucking and running, because that's just the trade-off with man. I'd take that if that meant that Tyler Boyd and A.J. Green weren't going to be running free in this zone like Marquise Brown, Miles Boykin, and Mark Andrews did last week. And you know what? They did that to a point. They didn't shut down this Bengals offense by any means, but they didn't allow A.J. Green to go off. They didn't allow Tyler Boyd to go off. They contained it to a point. They didn't stop it, but they contained it a little bit, which is all you needed. Joe Burrow, also, I want to make sure I get this out here before I get into the nitty-gritty about the Browns. Joe Burrow's going to be good. He's going to be good. The fact that he had 61 pass attempts, way too much of a toll on this offense put on Joe Burrow. They should run the ball more, but their offensive line's kind of atrocious, so it's pretty much on Joe Burrow's shoulder to do everything, right? He had to come up with the run production, come up with the short production. It was too much on Joe Burrow's shoulders, and I worry about his longevity. If they continue to use him like this, they should trade for a guard here just for Joe Burrow's future. Not to win now, but just for Joe Burrow's future, because that dude's the real deal. Anybody who throws 61 passes in their second NFL game and doesn't throw an interception, that guy's the real deal. I don't care what defense you're playing. You can do that, you're the real deal. You're not falling into a lot of the same traps that rookie quarterbacks do. You're the real deal. Just protect him. Make sure he doesn't have arm issues going on in his career because he's getting hit too much early on. The Bengals got to do solid by Joe Burrow and protect him there. But Joe Burrow, the player, he's going to be good if they protect him. And for the Browns overall, right, lots of areas of improvement for this team. But the base that they're working on is so much better. I'm so much more confident in that base than whatever it was that I saw in week 1 against the Ravens. So let's start the breakdowns by talking about the defense. So the defense had an up and down day, right? At times, they were actually pretty good against this Bengals offense, and at times, they were atrocious. Those times that they were atrocious were 3rd and 4th down. Not great on 3rd and 4th down against this Bengals offense, and that was the biggest problem. It wasn't that the game plan wasn't working against the Cincinnati Bengals to a point, right? I think they came into this game saying, we're going to let Joe Burrow kill us with these underneath throws, right? We're going to let him get those 5-6 yard receptions, but we're not going to let him beat us deep. We're not going to let A.J. Green go off. We're not going to let Tyler Boyd beat us deep. And they did that. They stopped that from happening. What they couldn't do, though, was stop them and get this Bengals offense off the field on 3rd and 4th down, which was a problem because it allowed the Bengals to drive, and stay in this game much longer than they should have. So the Browns defense, they halfway executed, right? They did what they were supposed to in containing some of this stuff from Joe Burrow and these wide receivers, this very talented offensive group that the Bengals have. But because the defensive line wasn't finishing on 3rd and 4th down, because the secondary wasn't making enough plays on 3rd and 4th down, they could not get this Bengals offense off the field, which allowed them to score 30 points. Honestly, the defense did everything else right except for those 2 downs. That's where they couldn't get anything done. They need to be better on those 2 downs. They did a good job against the run. Joe Burrow, 16 carries, 46 yards, 2.9 per carry, no touchdowns. Very good job against the run. Very disciplined. That play where Porter Gustin kind of stayed disciplined on that read option, great play. Did not make those plays last year. So this defense is a lot more disciplined than last year's defense in a lot of respects once they get some of this communication down with the secondary and once they get some time to get healthy, which, hey, they're going to have 9 games after this week's game. Hey, they're going to have 9 days after this week's game, so they might be able to fix these things in time for the game against Washington. But once those things come together, I think they will be able to make those plays on 3rd and 4th down. And again, they just need to get to a point to where they're a 15th, 16th ranked defense. Right now, they're in the late 20s right now with that defense. They need to get into that 15th, 16th ranking. If they get there, they should be fine. But if they don't, and it's possible they won't, because some of these issues are bigger than just, getting Mack Wilson back, getting Greedy Williams back, getting Ronnie Harrison more involved. Some of these issues are with the defensive line. Larry Ogunjobi has his issues, even though those issues have not been as big as they have been in previous years. I have to admit, he's been playing much better this season. And then Sheldon Richardson was the Sheldon Richardson we hoped to sign. So, the interior defensive line actually showed up today, played well. Linebackers did a decent enough job in coverage and did a good job against the run. It was really the secondary not finishing and making enough plays on 3rd and 4th down that continued these drives much longer than they had the right to continue. So those guys have to play better. That secondary has to get it together. They have the personnel to get it together, which is great, but they got to get it together. Today, they allowed their best corner, Denzel Ward, to play more man in order to just lock down whoever he's on so they don't have to worry about that, and that worked wonders. But they also need to get this figured out. They need to get the communication figured out because on 3rd and 4th down, it does become an issue, or in the red zone when Joe Burrow drops back to pass, it still is an issue. So fix that, clean those things up. But overall, the defense was up and down, about what I expected. Quick note on special teams, Cody Parkey made all his extra points. Literally, that's all I ask. Make your field goals under 40, make your extra points. I'm a happy guy. I don't care if you miss a 55-yard field goal or if you can't make a 55-yard field goal. Offense needs to be better, make that field goal shorter. The thing I couldn't work with Austin Seibert was that he would miss these extra points. It drove me crazy, legitimately. This guy made all his extra points in the dog pound in Cleveland Browns Stadium where people told me it's impossible to make those extra points. So hats off to Cody Parkey because what he did, according to Austin Seibert and all his fans, was extremely difficult. The rest of the special teams unit outside of Cody Parkey on extra points, not good. Did not like what I saw out of this team. Mike Prefer is the only coordinator to be brought over from the last staff. So he's the only one who doesn't have the new head coach, shortened off-season excuse. So none of those excuses really apply to him. And I am wondering what's going on. Now, I will give special teams a little bit when it comes to coverage of a break because the shortened off season and how practices had to happen this year, it really hurts special teams around the league. Like, if you look at special teams league wide, it's all bad. Like, for every team, it's not necessarily good for anybody. So I'm going to give him a break. I'm going to give him a month before I'm really critical of him. But the coverage on kickoffs was just awful. And Cody Parkey, I will say this about him, pulled all of his kickoffs either way too far to the right or way too far to the left. There was the one that went out of bounds, gave the Bengals the ball at the 40, which was bad. But the whole game, go back and watch those kickoffs. Every single kick was like low, a line drive, and then pulled to one side of the field. That's not normally how kickoffs look in the NFL. I wonder if that was just him or if that was something he was coached to do. Either way, make it stop. Just kick it far into the back of the end zone in the middle of the field. Just make that stop, because that's too nerve-wracking. That's my thoughts about the defense and special teams. Up and down day, but what you expected. You know, no surprises there. And the problems with that defense, you do have help coming in Mac Wilson and Greedy Williams and more practice time, because you do have the longer week after Thursday Night Football. So there are solutions available for this defense to improve. I don't think they'll be top 10. That's ridiculous. But they could get into that, you know, middling 15-16 conversation, which is what this defense needs to be. Now let's talk about the offense. And the offense, was so much better. I loved what I saw from the offense from a philosophical standpoint, from a snap standpoint, from a distribution of run-pass standpoint. This is what I wanted to see. This is what I thought we were going to see week 1 in Baltimore, but they decided to dig up the old Freddie Kitchens stuff and do that, which boggles my mind. I don't know why that happened. I hope that doesn't happen again for the rest of the season, but this is what we hope to see. First things first. Odell Beckham. Great bounce back. People went crazy on Odell Beckham for about 3 days after Sunday's game. They really were like slandering the man's name, acting like he's not a good wide receiver anymore. People telling me that they should trade Odell right now for a decent linebacker. Just all kind of ridiculous stuff about Odell all week. He came here on Thursday Night Football, blocked it all out, had himself a good game. Touchdown, 70-something yards on like three receptions. That's what you like to see out of Odell. The targets came naturally. It didn't feel like they were forcing things to Odell Beckham, trying to kickstart the offense. It felt organic how they got Odell Beckham involved. Again, you built the play action, you built the run, and then boom, the touches with Odell will come after that. It's all going to work if you just trust the system. By the way, one thing I saw about Odell that I think is just completely unfair, that I hear people talk about Odell, right? Oh, the attitude, the body language, all that. But if you actually watch Odell when he's on the field and does not get the ball, his body language is really not as bad as people make it out to be, because he blocks. Like, this guy is one of the few, top wide receivers that really block downfield. If you watch these highlights, the one pass at the beginning of the game to Jarvis Landry, Odell really did the best he could to block that up. Some of these runs, just watch Odell when he doesn't have the ball in his hands. He blocks really hard on these plays. Nobody ever talks about that. All people want to talk about with Odell is the body language, and does he look happy or does he not look happy? Is he about to kick a field goal? Now, everybody wants to go to the jokes and the memes about Odell. Nobody actually wants to go to the tape with Odell Beckham, because if you went to the tape, you would see this is a guy who works hard, who's almost blue collar in his approach, because he blocks harder than any star wide receiver in the league. But nobody's going to talk about that. Nobody's going to give him credit for that. I'm going to give him credit for that, because I saw that all this game. Odell Beckham Jr., great body language, blocking downfield. That's what you like to see. That's what you love to see. Speaking of also what you love to see, Baker Mayfield. I want to be clear here, because this was not Baker Mayfield's best game by a long shot. He's had much better games than this in his NFL career. But what we saw out of Baker Mayfield today was, a very focused Baker Mayfield, a very mature Baker Mayfield, which you love to see that growth in that area. But more importantly, was not a revelation. It was not something new that we learned about Baker Mayfield. It was exactly what we knew being confirmed on the football field. I've said on this channel for weeks, if you keep his attempts under 35, he is exactly the dude that you drafted, #1 overall. He's the guy who got you excited his rookie year. He's the dude who's 10-6. That's Baker Mayfield when you keep his attempts under 35, when you give him play action most of the time, when you keep him under the center. This is who Baker Mayfield is. How Baker Mayfield played today wasn't like an aberration. It's exactly who Baker Mayfield is when you put him in this kind of a situation. So please, keep putting him in this situation. When you do what you did with this offense last week, you're going to get that Baker Mayfield. That's 2019 Baker Mayfield. That's Baker Mayfield that was put in bad spots after bad spots by a bad coaching staff. But when you put him in this spot, when you do these things with Baker Mayfield, you get this guy. This guy's pretty good. You can work with this guy. You can win football games with this guy. This is what you should do with this guy at your quarterback position. Keep him under center. Keep him under 35 attempts. Keep the play action going, and then you have an 11-6 quarterback. Yeah, Baker Mayfield's 11-6 with the attempts 35 and under. That's not a mistake. That's not a coincidence. That's literal proof of what you should do with Baker Mayfield. So kudos to Kevin Stefanski for calling a much better game one. Good play calling today. Was not as bad as Baltimore. Was not bad like Baltimore's game. And having a much better game plan. This is the Baker Mayfield that's worthy of being the number 1 overall pick, that's worthy of being the starting quarterback, that's worthy of buying a jersey for, and that's worthy of being excited about. It's not a surprise. It's not a mystery. When you use Baker Mayfield one way, you get bad Baker Mayfield. When you use him the right way, you get good Baker Mayfield. It's not a mystery. Please let the Browns be the one to figure that out. And then Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, oh my God. I was thinking about this. If the Browns want to be a playoff team, if the Browns want to be this 10-6 team I envision them to be, this is exactly what you need to see out of Chubb and Hunt. Because we can talk about the missed tackles all we want. Oh, Cincinnati just couldn't tackle them. That's not going to be rare. That's going to be every NFL team in the fourth quarter if you can run these guys like you want it, like the Browns ran them in this fourth quarter. Nobody's going to be able to tackle that in the fourth quarter. Nobody tired is going to want to tackle a fresh Kareem Hunt or a fresh Nick Chubb because these are two physical backs, quick backs, and backs with home run speed. Nobody wants to deal with that all day. And the fact that these two can split carries seamlessly and not really miss a step either way and keep each other fresh, that's going to be impossible to tackle in the fourth quarter if the Browns can keep pounding. If they get up to 30 attempts, by the time they get into the fourth quarter, it's going to look a lot like it did against Cincinnati today, against any team, because nobody wants to tackle that in the NFL. Nobody has the stamina to continue to tackle these two dudes for 4 quarters. That is the key to running the ball a lot, right? Is having two backs that nobody wants to hit because you can wear guys down. Baltimore Ravens did this tremendously last year because you did not want to tackle Mark Ingram all day. You did not want to tackle Gus Edwards all day. You did not want to tackle Lamar Jackson all day. So by the time these teams got to the fourth quarter, they could wear them down. And when the Baltimore Ravens weren't able to get the run game going, when they weren't able to kind of get ahead and do their thing, that's when they lost against Cleveland and Tennessee. So it's not a mystery, right? You get to the fourth quarter, you can run like this, you're going to make everybody look like Cincinnati did in this fourth quarter. It's not special. It's not just Cincinnati's problem. That's going to be any NFL team's problem in the fourth quarter, having to stop these two guys. Because look what they did. Chubb, 22 carries, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5.6 yards per carry. That's elite. That's elite. There's no way around that, right? That's just elite running back Ezekiel Elliott type numbers. Kareem Hunt, 10 carries, 86 yards, 8.6 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. That's elite. Who's going to stop 2 elite running backs late in the fourth quarter when everybody's tired, when everybody's sucking wind, and nobody wants to get physical? That's the Browns' key. Again, I said they need to get physical. Josh Bynes is not a bad tackler. He got worn down because they kept throwing things at him. That's how you win football games with a run-heavy offense. Also, I have to give credit to the offensive line. Great job today. Jedrick Wills. Again, and you also have to give credit to the offensive line. Great job today. Jedrick Wills against Carlos Dunlap, one of the better defensive. You also have to give credit to this offensive line. Jedrick Wills, rookie, second game, had a decent game against Baltimore, but going up against Carlos Dunlap, one of the better defensive ends that nobody talks about in the NFL, like a consistent producer when it comes to sacks and pressures in the NFL. Jedrick Wills made him silent today. Like, I didn't hear anything from Carlos Dunlap. And Browns fans know Carlos Dunlap's been a pain in Browns fans' butt for a long time here. So Joe Bitonio had a really good day today. J.C. Treader had a really good day today. Chris Hubbard held up well. Wyatt Teller wasn't terrible. Good stuff from the offensive line today. Even with missing Jack Conklin, they looked really good out there. And I think the only part in this game where they missed Jack Conklin was in that 1 yard kind of situation with Nick Chubb where they weren't able to get it in. They had to go for it. They still got stopped. You missed Conklin in that situation, but they ended up getting that touchdown, so no harm, no foul there. And hopefully when you have Conklin in there, you're able to get that. They gave up 0 sacks. Baker Mayfield didn't get sacked a single time today. Imagine that. Like, remember what they did last year. Remember how many sacks Baker Mayfield took. Remember how often he got hit. He didn't get touched today. The only time he got touched was when he threw the interception and the guy got the personal foul for being an idiot. Good job, offensive line. Massive, massive difference from Greg Robinson last year. Massive difference. I have to give credit to the offensive line, and you have to give credit to Andrew Berry for drafting the right guys because, you know, we saw Andrew Thomas in New York. Did not look great. We saw Tristan Wirfs in Tampa Bay. Did not look great. People were telling you to draft those two guys over Jedrick Wills, but it looks like through 2 weeks that the transition is not bugging Jedrick Wills as much as people anticipated, and that you got it yourself a really good tackle, which I'm not sure the Giants are ready to say, and I'm not sure Tampa Bay is ready to say about their young tackle. So hats off to Andrew Berry. That was not a layup. It was a layup in a lot of people's opinions, but not, you know, mainstream NFL draft, you know, minds. It wasn't. So good job on Andrew Berry. This is more like it. This is the offense you like to see. This is how you would like to see the Browns play. This is the identity you would like them to have. This is how you want the Browns to play. Win, lose, or draw. Like, if the Browns came out like this against Baltimore and lost to Baltimore by like 10 points, I wouldn't have been as upset as how they lost against Baltimore in week 1. Because this is the identity that I was sold. This is the identity I expect. And this is the identity I think is best for this team. So this is what you wanted to see. It's also what you expected defensively. Still some holes to patch up in that secondary. Not really going to shut anybody down. And a good quarterback with time is going to be able to dice up this zone. Nothing we didn't expect. Still have a lot of room to work on. Still have some room to grow. But you have some reinforcements coming in. Luckily with Mac Wilson and Greedy Williams. So it's bad, but it could get a lot better. Right? It's not as bad as if this offense could not find its footing, because if the offense couldn't find its footing, I don't know how you fix that. You got everybody healthy. But the defense being what it is, you can work with that. You can fix that. And, you know, ultimately you run the ball a lot, so time of possession is going to be important. And now you got 9 days to clean up some of the things that were a little bit messy here. You know, some of the bad penalties defensively that happened. You got 9 days to clean these things up before you play Washington. And you have a legitimate chance to start the season 2-1. And now the outlook on the season is completely different than it would be if you were 0-2 or after week 1, right? We feel completely different about this team. We're a lot more positive about this team after this game. So kudos to the Browns. Kudos to the Bengals, by the way. I don't think the Browns just beat some scrub team here. I think the Bengals are going to be a team that surprises a lot of people and one of the better offenses in football from a raw numbers standpoint this year. So I don't think people should take what the Browns did with a grain of salt necessarily because it's against Cincinnati, because I don't think this team is as bad as people want it to say it is. It's a much better team than people are giving it credit for. It's just that the Browns played really well. But that's my thoughts on Week 2's Thursday Night Football games. Let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. Do you think this is signs of more to come, or are you concerned about anything you saw in this game? Let me know your thoughts down below. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.